Hey, greetings. So I am facing the challenge that I have had yet to face, and I'm doing this reading from a book that I wrote 10 years ago. So that's just a reminder to say that this is a sort of a new experience for me, or at least I try and look at it that way. And at the same time, I try not to like completely detach from this person who's essentially me, but I've grown a lot, and a lot of things have changed. I've gone through a lot of um, different sort of experiences in life after I wrote this book. So not everything is something that I agree with, but I find it to be a good exercise, or an interesting experiment, maybe, um, to just really, really try to apply non-judgment, or not, and not to be too hard on myself, and to try and approach this with love and understanding. Anyway, I am talking too much, but yeah, I hope that you are doing well. And if you're worrying about something right now, I'm going to ask you to lay that aside. Just put it down. Let whatever you're worrying about worry about itself. And let's use our brains in a more productive and healthy way, or at least give yourself a break and give yourself that grace. And you're worthy. You deserve it. You are so very loved. In fact, you are love, and love surrounds you. You just need to let some of that in. So let's not block things with worry and things like that, at least not for the moment. And if you can remember that in a couple of different moments in a day, and take some deep breaths and just sort of grip onto that, then over a little bit of time, those moments that, they become a collection, and they sort of, I don't want to use the word stack, but like they will stack up, or they will start to form something more whole, and ultimately come or become more sort of integrated with you, or you'll be able to notice it within yourself as a part of who you are. So if hopefully that made sense, but it's about engaging with yourself, but as in the the person who you are created to be, who we all are created to be, and the characteristics of you that ultimately makes you be able to be, and that makes you able, and that makes you a being, and that makes you able to expand and grow. And let me not go off on a tangent. Okay, so I'm just going to read and try not to interrupt myself with side comments or remarks, so that this is a good practice for that as well. Because sometimes I will disagree with something that I wrote, but then I can give myself a little bit of grace, knowing that, okay, this is 10 years ago, times were different, times in my life were different, I was going through a particularly hard time at that time, and this ultimately was a process of a lot of things, but a process in which I didn't realize at that time, but ultimately, after a little amount of time, when certain things sort of got knead and molded and became into something beautiful, something whole, that I realized healing. I got healing through the process of writing this book, and also I was grieving at the time as well, but I was applying my creativity, and also I couldn't sit with a lot of my thoughts, and I had a lot of energy and a lot of things that I had been suppressing at the time, and so sort of things flowed, but not everything made it onto pages. This is a very, very short book. But for some people, it can be difficult to read, and then it depends on your perception or the way you approach the book. And also, yeah, suppose I should mention that the reason why I can tell you the story as to how I came to writing the book, but the reason why I was not going to publish it. I was not going to publish it. I was actually against it. It took a minimum of two people to kind of, you know, yeah, well, they two against one, and they were very convincing, and also the reason why I decided to publish was, or the reasoning behind, I suppose, is because I thought, well, if this book could help at least one person in some way, and not, well, maybe I should not say in some way, because I don't want anybody to take the word help and think that I'm trying to help any kind of negativity. No, the point is to help assist somebody in such a way that they are better off, or they can see the light, or they can feel less alone. That I think you understand what I'm saying. And we all need healing. We all need healing all the time. It's like a part of growth, and I most certainly am not a person who wants other people to be hurting or suffering, even though I've been through that. I still go through that. It's a part of life as well. But as hard as life is also beautiful. It is also beautiful. And I feel the urge to go off on that kind of stream of thought, but I won't. I will. You see how I'm just avoiding reading this? Let me dive right in. Okay. I also think that, whilst because often, I don't know if you notice, but often, the biggest judge that we have, and that can lead to a lot of paranoia, is ourselves. And we, sometimes we get confused by that. Sometimes we think that we are being judged when it's really, our own mind sort of being funky and perhaps not seeing things as clearly as it could. But also, then I would say that you kind of have to take a step back and look at the thinking process, and especially if you're landing on some kind of emotion or sense, or like, let's say you're anxious and paranoid all of a sudden, and then perhaps you say, okay, well, do an inquiry. Why is that? Or what's going on? Okay, I don't see anything. There's no earthquake, alive. Okay, and then you can sort of think, okay, maybe it's in my thoughts, so let me just check. And for me, it's very interesting to see, oh, there's a red flag. Oh, okay, I seem to have done an interesting loop there. How can I get myself back around? And it's very important not to overthink whilst, or not to, you're obviously going to be thinking whilst you're observing, but not to overthink things and try to solve a problem whilst you're trying to observe the landscape of the of the pathways of the brain that you can perceive, or that you are deciding to look at, to inquire, to try and find out why you might be feeling or sensing in a certain way. and or why suddenly things may become or have become unpleasant for you, and for example why you may feel like, oh, I'm being judged when not, what is the world judging you? So sometimes we and and let's say there's a person in your periphery, you may think it's very easy to think, oh, that person's judging me, and your mind can fill with all kinds of lies from the pit of hell. And hopefully you can spot that kind of thing and resist that and just sort of speak life over that and be like, no. um, and but anyway, getting back to observing that sometimes you've got to check yourself. You got to look within, because I found that sometimes I would be in some sort of state and very paranoid and have this feeling like I'm being judged. And that's different from like your ears burning, but like that can definitely be part of the experience. And you know, uh, I've had the experience of that. I would think that the whole world is like judging me, and my mind would then almost like open up to a whole world's worth of judgments, and I would let that basically overwhelm me. And notice my language, I would let it, I would so it, so, and then I was experiencing it as well, and it's sort of like uh, there's a lot of emphasis on weird things, and when you sort of almost take the eye and you put it out, and then you face it, kind of look within but look without, or look into a reflection of what could be within that you're noticing hints on outside of yourself or on the exterior form. That may be that it's not to go looking outward for information, but sometimes that may be a signal or a sign to, oh, perhaps I should look inward, or and then now I just want to speak about realization, how that as itself is something that I definitely want to talk about, because I think it's just very interesting. Anyway, but yeah, just and I think that it's a good thing to sort of constantly check yourself, or at least be, let's put it this way, at least be aware, or have a level of awareness, and slowly sort of work on that and grow that. And so that you can know yourself a bit better, and so that you can spot potential red flags that may sway or may take your thoughts and get them off track into the middle of nowhere, and then you may feel lost, and then you on top of that you may feel alien, and then on top of that you may feel like, oh my gosh, the whole world is judging me, how can I ever blah 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 blah, and listen to that language again, sometimes we need to take the I out. So hopefully you sort of getting some of the metaphor that I'm trying to sort of chip away at, and at the same time hopefully I am too. But if you can give yourself the grace to at least not hammer yourself so much, and not to be too hard on yourself, therefore try not to judge yourself, and then perhaps try and give yourself grace, and just as you would for someone that you love. And that's something that we often see in others, and that's why we treat them perhaps with grace. But then when it comes to ourselves, why is there an imbalance? You got to keep that stuff balanced. And that's only fair. So you don't need excuses or reasoning. You don't need to earn it to decide to give yourself grace. Yeah, you can take the thought of yourself being judged, and you can take your own judgmental thoughts, and you can take all of that you think that is being pinned onto you, and you can take that and pin it. Put that as a pin down, and put that as a red flag. When I get to that place, I just know that I need to just take the other road or pathway, and avoid that catastrophic. I don't know what to call it, but it's good to, you know, put red flags in different places. So just to get yourself, to be able to navigate a little bit easier inside your mind, or perhaps I should say maybe inside your thoughts, because if I say mind, then that reminds me of like, if this is a sort of a central core point, or a brain of a topic, let's say mind, then I feel, then in my mind's eye, I can think, oh, there's all the lines, like a mind map, and then boop, 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 bubbles, and a whole network of things. So isn't that interesting how it can expand, and then also at the same time I can put down my hand and not talk about it anymore. But there's so many things that are interesting in life, and you are interesting. Did you know that you're interesting? You're an interesting person. There is something about you that is deeply interesting, that is lovable, that is seen. And I don't know if you're seeing that, but maybe it's time to let yourself see yourself in the way that you can channel grace and love, and whatever it is that takes that judgment, that you may be feeling, the paranoia, anxiety, and just dissolves it. And that is not at all an obstacle, and it just goes away, and you can sort of see clearly and take a few steps forward, or feel like, oh, I'm not stuck, or I thought I was stuck, but actually you have potential that's within you. And you'll be surprised when you look within, and or if you take a step out and you observe you, and you observe being, and if you be you, and trying to become the full you that you are meant to be, if that makes any sense. Sometimes I can be funky. Then that kind of sounds like you're on the right track. But because you are here, and because you are breathing, that is a miracle. It is a miracle. And I'm not going to go into trying to define miracles. If you just think about it, you being alive and breathing, that's a gift. You are blessed to be a blessing, and I just want you to know that. So let me just go into this. It's very short, I think. Okay, I don't know if this is going to be in any way relevant, but yeah, I can't just I can't not practice what I preach. Not that I'm trying to preach, and I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. So let's go. Acknowledge and realize that you have the right to see things as you wish. You have the right to change, and you have the right to allow yourself to embrace the ability to overcome what constricts you. Like many other people, one can look at subjects and meanings with alternating perspectives. When one really pulls apart the basic meaning, one exposes many other aspects aside from it. Everyone views things in different ways. One can even look upon one's own former views and disagree with them or change them. I'm seeing the irony. Hence, I will introduce another approach to perceive time. Time is one of two things: one, irrelevant; two, useful. But it is vital that time should never become the boundary of your experience of life. Again, this was 10 years ago, so okay. It is not supposed to limit, it should guide, teach, and assist you by providing structure and organization, as well as allowing gaps for spiritual freedom and liberal manners of action. One should learn not to be dependent on time. Imagine if it did not exist. In my eyes, it is a made-up phenomenon mankind formulated a long time ago to explain the movement of certain imperceptible entities passing by us in order to provide definition to the concepts we could not understand back then. Okay? Consider if we did not know time, that we neither discovered nor defined it. What if it never obtained a label? We cannot definitely prove its existence. Okay? Time is a theory just like aliens, except time has a label that people believe. Is that really necessary? Not judging. Let's face it, generally speaking, we humans love to label. We love to determine the path that, like sheep, we all should follow. I mean, even if one is a goat eating out its own path in the long grasses of life, one receives a label. I can appreciate the naivety in myself when I was younger. I'll say that. One is limited to a conclusion that all other parties decide to be true. That's if you're accepting being labeling. Genuine independence of time and traveling can only be developed without definite labeling. In no way am I saying that people should not define and figure things out, nor am I saying that people are not allowed to think what they want or what society wants. By all means, follow each other like ants if that is how you want to live your life. I just think that sometimes instead of defining, we confine. And this happens exclusively when we create labels. I tend to think that labels close and the undefined opens. So perhaps labels are actually limits, which leads me to the next subject of this chapter. Keep in mind that what will follow is not meant to be another label or unalterable explanation, but a convenient way to illuminate my theory. However, you may perceive it as you wish, even if as a label. Fears and limits. The willingness and action to attempt to understand, as well as the paradigm shift from a closed to an open mind, is the winning combination that could possibly drive out the label and basic definition of fear. Okay, so the video cut off on me, which is a sign I need to continue to move on with this, or I have to redo this whole entire thing, because I don't like it to have a cut in the video. It makes, because I feel like that may put out the perception that I'm trying to edit something out or hide something, which is not that. So I might just redo this, or I might try and put it together and see if there's understanding. Mostly from me. Okay, so amazing what a synonym can do is where I just was cut off. There are 3 common stages associated with limitations. It is within limits, at limit point, and beyond limits. I would like to highlight that what I think is the most important stage is beyond limits. Hasn't going beyond limits been proven true time and time again? I believe that we all have the ability to go beyond limitations. We have all undoubtedly had the experience of venturing beyond limits in some way. Therefore, apparently I can't read anymore. Let me do that again. There are 3 common stages associated with limitations: within limits, at limit point, and beyond limits. I would like to highlight what I think is the most important stage: beyond limits. Hasn't going beyond limits been proven true time and time again? I believe that we all have the ability to go beyond limitations. We have all undoubtedly had the experience of venturing beyond limits in some way. Therefore, we all have the ability to travel beyond fear. And we all possess the right to destroy our self-inflicted constrictions. Yeah. Label is a disguise. Label is sugar, not needed, and contains no nutritional value. I look at the word limitation and I see leeway. I look at the word fear and I see compression and excuse. Man, that's hectic. I'm going to think on that. Yo. I may be right, I may be wrong, but try to change your thinking for the moment. Imagine that fears are limits. Limits are versatile. We can be within, on the borderline, or beyond them, and we have the choice of which. Yes, I think that's very important to just highlight. You have a decision. You have the freedom to choose. You can decide to transcend that fear, or you can decide to feed that fear and feed it badly, and you can decide to just not do anything, which ultimately can, let you just go. The fear will just come. So to just sort of level up, and go beyond fear. I don't know how to, it's like you dig up that fear, put it in there, and you make a new soil bed and you plant a beautiful seed, and it grows and goes beyond and interacts with the rest of life, and there you are. And certain things need to be uprooted that might be limiting, constraining, and if you let limits become, or in sort of some sort of fear, like we all have limitations and things like, but if you can even just, if you are able to take a fear and make it into, okay, this is something that's limiting me, and or something that's perhaps an obstacle, what you're gonna do? You're gonna sidestep it. You're gonna sit on that obstacle. You're gonna use the obstacle to lean against, or are you gonna face that obstacle, and are you gonna take it on? And then take it on, I mean, like, say, hey, limitation, get down. I'm gonna make you rubble, and I'm gonna walk right over you. Beyond. I'm gonna carry on growing. So, you can make a decision. You can choose life. It's the decision. Once you decide, then you choose. You can start to believe it. Then suddenly you're from a stuck place to a place from which you take your first step and you begin to move, and you can see that. And once you do that, it is like, wow, it's possible. Fear and limitation may even be entirely insignificant and unnecessary. They may be better Almost don't want to read this part. I will highlight the naivety of the sentence. Total. Like, this is I'm something fluent. This is totally naive. I didn't know, and I'm trying to be nice, but I want to say this is completely wrong and contradictory to what I just free-flowingly said. But it is written here. It was written here. Fear and limitation may even be entirely insignificant and unnecessary. Then I said they may be better ignored rather than overcome. There could be various reasons as to why we degrade in willpower and strength, but when one flips the coin, they may even help make people make sense of troubles and doubts. All of this said, whether fear and limitation proves to be helpful or not, one has the right to decide. So that's 10 years ago how I wrote what I just said freely. So you can see the difference in that. I pray that you can see that, or at least understand that. Oh, is that how I end the chat? Okay. So I end the chapter basically on what I said 10 years ago. But just before I said that, I was speaking, I was commentating and I interrupted myself. But, sometimes I have to do that because I can. It's me and it's the book. I can pause. Yeah, it's not like I'm interrupting another person, but that is something that I do sometimes do, and I would say it's become more malleable. It's kind of been taking it from a habit and trying to just work it out and make it more malleable, that I can shape that habit into something else and improve upon that, because I don't want to be that type of person that has not got enough self-control, or let's say that has a little bit too much energy or excitement, or let's call it not enough self-control, let's say, or words that I can't think now, that ends up in interrupting in conversations. And sometimes if you're in a conversation, this is the reason why I'm working on it, just one of many. So, sometimes you may have a conversation and it's with another person, so two people. And let's say you might have a habit, well, let's just not call it a habit, I don't want to label things. But let's say you have something that keeps reoccurring, that is perhaps you interrupting in conversations and not in the right places. So if you're wondering why you're leaving a conversation feeling unsatisfied, take a look at that. It might just be that where you're interjecting is in the right place. But then again, just stay engaged and love one another and be kind to one another, and God bless you. God bless. Bye.